In the vast silence of space, humanity's place among the stars was about to be challenged. Commander Sarah Chun, aboard the UES Horizon, never imagined that the first contact with an alien race would ignite a war for Earth's survival. The Vorthan Collective, a ruthless militaristic empire, underestimated Earth's resolve, dismissing humanity as weak and primitive. But what they didn't know was that Earth had been preparing for this moment for over 2 centuries. As the Vorthan fleet barrels toward Earth, they will soon discover that humans are not what they seem. What follows is a battle that will rewrite the rules of galactic power, one where the true cost of arrogance will be paid in full. The first contact, Gambit, the Deep Space Encounter Commander Sarah Chun, stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the stars streak past through the viewport. Her ship had been exploring the outer rim of known space for 6 months, cataloging new systems and searching for signs of intelligent life. The Horizon was humanity's most advanced exploration vessel, equipped with the latest stealth technology and scientific instruments. Commander called out Lieutenant David Park from the communication station. "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the system ahead. They don't match any natural phenomena in our database." Sarah moved to the tactical display, her dark eyes studying the readings. At 35, she had spent half her life in space, working her way up from a junior navigator to commanding one of Earth's most important missions. The readings showed organized patterns of movement and energy discharge that could only mean one thing. "Looks like we found what we were looking for," she said quietly. "Take us to yellow alert and reduce speed. I want passive scans only." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency. Chief Science Officer Dr. Elena Rodriguez bent over her instruments, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "Commander, I'm reading at least 40 vessels in formation. Their technology appears to be based on plasma manipulation and antimatter propulsion. Definitely not human." Sarah felt her pulse quicken. After decades of searching, humanity had finally encountered another spacefaring civilization. The question was whether this would be a moment of wonder or one of terror. "Any signs they've detected us?" she asked. "Negative, Commander. Our stealth systems are holding." Sarah made her decision. "Take us closer. I want detailed scans of their ships and technology, but maintain our distance and be ready to jump to hyperspace if they notice us." The Vorthan Collective, as the Horizon moved deeper into the system, the alien fleet came into clearer view on the main screen. The ships were massive, angular vessels that looked more like weapons than exploration craft. Dark metal hulls bristled with weapon emplacements, and energy fields crackled around their edges. "My God," whispered Dr. Rodriguez. "These aren't explorers, Commander. This is a military fleet." Navigation Officer Lisa Wong looked up from her station, her young face pale. "Commander, I'm detecting weapon signatures consistent with planet-killing capabilities. Each of those ships could sterilize a world." Sarah studied the alien formation. The ships moved with military precision, maintaining perfect spacing and coordination. Everything about them spoke of an advanced, disciplined civilization that had been fighting wars for a very long time. "Sir," Lieutenant Park called out urgently, "they're hailing us. They've detected our presence." Sarah's stomach dropped. So much for their stealth advantage. Put it through. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at an alien face that would haunt Sarah's nightmares for years to come. The creature had 4 arms, scaled skin the color of dried blood, and eyes like black diamonds. When it spoke, its voice was like gravel grinding against steel. "Unknown vessel." The alien said in perfect English, "I am War Admiral Crix of the Vorthan Collective. You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in immediate destruction." Sarah stepped forward, fighting to keep her voice steady. "This is Commander Sarah Chun of the United Earthship Horizon. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic contact with your people." The alien's expression didn't change, but Sarah could sense amusement in its dark eyes. "Peace? You speak of peace to the Vorthan Collective? We do not negotiate with inferior species. You will submit or you will die." Admiral Crix, Sarah said carefully, we're explorers, not warriors. Surely there's room in the galaxy for both our peoples to coexist peacefully. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Coexist? Carbon-based primitives do not coexist with the collective. They serve or they are eliminated. Your species will have 30 of your planetary rotations to evacuate your homeworld. After that, we will cleanse it for Vorthan colonization. The message to Earth, the transmission, ended abruptly, leaving the Horizon's bridge in stunned silence. Sarah stared at the blank screen, her mind racing. 30 days. The aliens had given humanity 30 days to abandon Earth or face extinction. Commander, Dr. Rodriguez said quietly, their fleet is moving. They're heading toward Earth. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her shoulders. She was probably the first human to make contact with an alien civilization, and that civilization had just declared war on humanity. Lieutenant Park, send an emergency transmission to Earth Command. Priority Alpha classification. Include all sensor data on the Vorthan ships and technology. She paused, trying to find the right words. Tell them we have 30 days to prepare for war. As the communications officer worked frantically to compile the data package, Sarah studied the retreating Vorthan fleet. Their ships moved with terrifying purpose, already plotting a course that would take them directly to humanity's homeworld. Chief Engineer Tom Bradley spoke up from his station near the back of the bridge. Commander, what are our orders? Do we follow them? Try to gather more intelligence? Sarah considered their options. The Horizon was a science vessel, not a warship. They had no chance against even one Vorthan vessel, let alone an entire fleet. But they might be able to learn something that could help Earth's defenses. We follow at maximum range, she decided. I want continuous passive scans of their technology. Every piece of data we can gather might save lives. Earth's response 3 days later, as the Horizon shadowed the Vorthan fleet through hyperspace, Sarah received a coded transmission from Earth. She took it in her private quarters, knowing that whatever Earth Command had to say would change everything. Admiral Jackson Hayes appeared on her personal communicator, his weathered face grim but determined. Sarah had served under Hayes early in her career and knew him to be one of Earth's finest strategic minds. Commander Chun, Hayes said, without preamble, your intelligence on the Vorthan Collective has been analyzed by our best Xena specialists. Their threat assessment is accurate. They possess the capability to destroy human civilization. Sarah felt her heart sink. She had hoped that Earth's defenses might be enough to repel the alien invasion. However, Hayes continued, your mission has triggered the activation of Protocol Terran. You are to return to Earth immediately and report to Cheyenne Mountain Complex. Your crew will be debriefed and reassigned to protocol stations. Sir, Sarah said, confused, I'm not familiar with Protocol Terran. Hayes' expression remained neutral, but Sarah thought she saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Pride? Anticipation. Commander, Protocol Terran has been classified above your security level. But I will tell you this. Humanity has been preparing for this day for over 200 years. The Vorthans have made a critical error in their threat assessment. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah with more questions than answers. Protocol Terran? 200 years of preparation? What had Earth been hiding from its own military officers? The journey home as the Horizon changed course for Earth. Sarah found herself studying the crew roster and thinking about humanity's chances. Her ship carried 43 of Earth's best and brightest, scientists, engineers, and explorers who had dedicated their lives to pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. Dr. Rodriguez joined her in the observation lounge as they watched the stars wheel past. The older woman had been Sarah's mentor and friend for over a decade. Elena, Sarah said, have you ever heard of Protocol Terran? The scientist was quiet for a long moment. Not officially, she said finally, but there have been rumors in the scientific community for years. Stories about black projects, hidden research facilities, technologies that were deemed too dangerous for public knowledge. What kind of technologies? The kind that could level the playing field against an advanced alien civilization. Elena said quietly, "Sarah, I think humanity has been keeping secrets from itself." The Vorthan advance, meanwhile, War Admiral Crix studied the tactical displays aboard his flagship, the Devastator. The human vessel had been following his fleet for days, maintaining a respectful distance but gathering intelligence nonetheless. He had allowed it to continue partly from curiosity and partly from contempt. The humans had surprised him slightly with their stealth technology and their courage in approaching a Vorthan fleet. But they were still primitives, barely capable of faster-than-light travel. Their largest warships were smaller than Vorthan escort vessels. Admiral, his tactical officer, reported, "The human ship has changed course. They are no longer following us." Crix nodded, probably racing home to warn their leaders. "It matters little. We have given them 30 rotations to evacuate. It is more mercy than the collective usually shows." His second-in-command, Commander Vex, stepped forward. "Sir, should we accelerate our approach?" If the humans are preparing defenses, Crix made the grinding sound that passed for Vorthan laughter. What defenses could they possibly prepare in 30 rotations? Their technology is centuries behind ours. We could conquer their homeworld with a single battle cruiser. Then why bring the entire Third Fleet? To make an example, Crix replied coldly, "Other species in this region need to understand what happens to those who refuse to submit to the collective. The complete destruction of human civilization will send that message clearly." Preparation and doubt as the Vorthan fleet continued toward Earth. Sarah pushed the Horizon's engines to their limits. Every hour could matter when the invasion began. Her crew worked around the clock, analyzing every scrap of data they had gathered about Vorthan technology. The picture that emerged was not encouraging. The aliens possessed weapons that could crack planets, shields that could deflect any human weapon, and faster-than-light communications that would let them coordinate their fleet across vast distances. "Commander," Lieutenant Wong said during one of their strategy sessions, "I've been running simulations based on the Vorthan capabilities. Even if we evacuated every human from Earth, they could hunt us down across the galaxy. Their ships are faster than ours, their weapons more powerful." Sarah nodded grimly. She had reached the same conclusion. Evacuation wasn't really an option. Humanity would have to fight, and based on everything they knew, humanity would lose. Unless Protocol Terran was everything Admiral Hayes had implied it might be. The hidden truth unknown to Sarah and her crew, deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, General Marcus Stone stood in a command center that officially didn't exist. The room was filled with holographic displays showing star charts, fleet positions, and weapon readiness reports that would have amazed even Sarah's experienced crew. Stone was 62 years old and had dedicated his entire adult life to this moment. He had been recruited into Protocol Terran as a young lieutenant, sworn to secrecy that went beyond any normal military classification. For 4 decades, he had helped prepare for the day when humanity would encounter a hostile alien civilization. "General," his aide reported, "the Vorthan fleet will reach Earth orbit in 26 days. All protocol assets are at maximum readiness." Stone nodded, studying the tactical display that showed not just Earth's defenses, but humanity's true fleet strength scattered across dozens of star systems. The Vorthans thought they were attacking a primitive world defended by chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. They were about to discover that humanity had been hiding in plain sight for over 2 centuries, and that their primitive prey had teeth they never imagined possible. The war was about to begin, and the Vorthan Collective was about to learn why humans had survived and thrived on one of the galaxy's most dangerous worlds. They were about to face the full fury of a species that had turned deception into an art form and conflict into a science. The first shots hadn't been fired yet, but the outcome was already determined. The Vorthans just didn't know it yet. The deception unveiled. The Vorthan war machine war, Admiral Crix, stood in the command center of the Devastator, watching as his massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Around him, the Third Fleet of the Vorthan Collective spread out in perfect battle formation. 300 warships, each one capable of reducing a planet to ash, now hung in the darkness between the stars. Admiral, reported his tactical officer, we have visual confirmation of the human homeworld. Initial scans show a single inhabited planet, third from their star. Population appears to be concentrated in large settlements across the major landmasses. Crix nodded, his four arms folded behind his back as he studied the holographic display. The human world looked exactly as he had expected, a primitive blue and green sphere with no visible defenses beyond some basic orbital stations and communication satellites. What about their military capabilities, he asked. Minimal, Admiral. We detect approximately 200 small vessels in various orbits around the planet. Most appear to be civilian transports or cargo ships. We count perhaps 50 military vessels, none larger than our escort frigates. Commander Vex stepped forward, his scaled features showing confusion. Admiral, this seems too easy. The humans have had 30 rotations to prepare their defenses. Where are their battleships, their defensive platforms? Crix made the grinding sound that served as Vorthan laughter. You give these primitives too much credit, Commander. They simply do not possess the technology to threaten us. Their largest weapons are fusion-based missiles that could barely scratch our armor. The truth was that Crix felt slightly disappointed. He had expected at least some resistance from the species that had dared to suggest negotiations with the collective. Instead, he found himself facing what appeared to be a defenseless world whose inhabitants were probably cowering in their cities, waiting for the inevitable. Open a communication channel to the planet, he ordered. Let them know their time has expired. Earth's apparent vulnerability, the transmission reached every communication device on Earth simultaneously. In New Tokyo, London, Lagos, and New York, billions of humans stopped what they were doing to listen as War Admiral Crix delivered humanity's death sentence. People of Earth, the alien commander began, his voice carrying across every frequency. I am War Admiral Crix of the Vorthan Collective. Your 30 rotations of grace have ended. You will now witness the price of refusing to submit to the Collective's authority. Dr. Emily Watson stood in the Emergency Command Center beneath Geneva, watching the transmission alongside the leaders of Earth's various nations. As the director of the Global Defense Initiative, she had spent the last 30 days coordinating what appeared to be a futile evacuation effort. All ships, begin the cleansing, Crix continued. Eliminate all military targets first, then proceed with systematic destruction of population centers. Leave no structure standing that could shelter survivors. The transmission ended and the room fell silent. President Martinez of the American Federation spoke first, his voice barely above a whisper. Is there any word from the protocol teams? Dr. Watson checked her secured communication device. General Stone confirms all assets are in position. Phase 1 begins in 60 seconds. Around the room, the leaders of humanity's major nations exchanged glances. Most of them had learned about Protocol Terran only days ago, when the Vorthan threat became undeniable. The revelation that their planet had been maintaining secret defensive capabilities for over 2 centuries had been shocking enough. The scale of those capabilities was beyond anything they had imagined. The hidden fleet awakens 15 light-years from Earth, in a star system that appeared empty on every astronomical survey. Commander Jake Morrison received the activation signal he had been waiting for his entire adult life. Around him, the bridge of the TDF Retribution hummed with quiet efficiency as his crew prepared for combat. Morrison was 41 years old and had never officially existed. Like thousands of other humans scattered across dozens of hidden bases throughout human space, he had been recruited into the Terran Defense Force at the age of 18 and had spent the last 23 years preparing for this moment. All stations report ready. Commander, announced his executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Rachel Torres. The fleet is prepared to jump on your command. Morrison looked at the tactical display showing his task force, 50 vessels that represented 2 centuries of secret human engineering. Each ship was larger and more powerful than anything in Earth's official navy, equipped with technologies that the Vorthans had never encountered. Signal the other task forces, he ordered. Execute Terran Protocol, Phase 1. It's time to show our guests what humanity is really capable of. Across human space, identical scenes played out as hidden fleets received their orders. Ships that had been concealed in asteroid fields, gas giant atmospheres, and the dark spaces between stars suddenly came alive with purpose. The true strength of human civilization was about to reveal itself. The first surprise in the Sol system, Crix watched with satisfaction as his fleet moved into attack formation. The human orbital stations had gone silent, probably abandoned by crews who knew they faced certain death. It would all be over within hours. Admiral, his sensor operator, called out suddenly, "I'm detecting energy signatures from the asteroid belt." Multiple contacts appearing on sensors. Crix frowned and moved to the tactical station. "What kind of contacts?" "Unknown, sir. They appear to be ships, but they're larger than anything we detected earlier. I count over 100 vessels emerging from concealment in the asteroid field." The main display updated to show the new contacts, and Crix felt the first stirring of unease. The ships emerging from the asteroid belt were not the primitive vessels they had cataloged earlier. These were sleek, predatory-looking craft that radiated power, even from this distance. "How did our sensors miss them?" demanded Commander Vex. "They appear to have been using some form of advanced stealth technology," the sensor operator replied. "Our scanners are still having difficulty getting clear readings on their capabilities." Before Crix could respond, more contacts began appearing throughout the system. Ships emerged from behind moons, from the shadows of planets, and from regions of space that sensors had shown as empty. Within minutes, the human fleet had tripled in size. "This is impossible," Vex whispered. "Where did they come from?" The deception revealed on Earth. General Marcus Stone watched the Vorthan confusion with grim satisfaction. The command center beneath Cheyenne Mountain buzzed with activity as staff officers coordinated the most complex military deception in human history. "General," reported Colonel Patricia Hayes, "Phase 1 deployments are complete. All hidden assets are now visible to Vorthan's sensors." Stone nodded, studying the tactical display that showed the real balance of forces in the Sol system. The Vorthans still outnumbered the human defenders, but not by the overwhelming margin they had expected. "What's the status of the outlying fleets?" "Task Forces Alpha through Echo are in position around Vorthan supply bases. Beta and Gamma fleets are ready to interdict their retreat routes. Task Force Omega is standing by for deep strike operations." Stone allowed himself a small smile. The Vorthans had made the classic mistake of assuming that what they could see represented the full extent of human capabilities. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this confrontation for 8 generations. "Open a channel to the Vorthan flagship," he ordered. The table's Turn War Admiral Crix was still trying to understand how his intelligence had been so catastrophically wrong when a new communication reached his ship. Instead of the cowering human leaders he expected, the screen showed a calm, elderly human in military uniform standing in what was obviously a sophisticated command center. "Admiral Crix," the human said without preamble, "I am General Marcus Stone of the Terran Defense Force. Welcome to Sol System." Crix stared at the human, his mind racing. The command center behind the general showed advanced holographic displays and technology that rivaled anything in the collective's arsenal. "Impossible," Crix said. "Our scans showed primitive technology, chemical rockets and fusion weapons." Stone's expression didn't change. "Our scans showed exactly what we wanted you to see, Admiral. Humanity has learned that in a hostile galaxy, the best defense is to appear defenseless. You have been deceived." "Deceived how?" Crix demanded, though part of him already suspected the answer. "For 212 years, since our first detection of faster-than-light travel in distant star systems, humanity has maintained 2 separate technological tracks. One public, one hidden. The ships and weapons you cataloged represent our civilian space program. What you're seeing now is our military." On the tactical display, Crix watched as more human ships continued to appear. Energy readings showed weapon systems that defied his understanding of physics and defensive capabilities that made his own fleet's advantages seem trivial. "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Stone gestured to someone off-screen, and suddenly the space around one of Crix's escort frigates rippled like water. The ship simply vanished, appearing moments later floating dead in space, all power systems offline. "That was a demonstration, Admiral. We could have destroyed your ship, but we chose to disable it instead. You now have a choice: withdraw your fleet from our system, or discover what our weapons can do when we stop showing restraint." The Quantum Advantage DR. Sarah Kim stood in the Weapon Control Center aboard the TDF Retribution, her hands dancing over quantum field manipulators that existed only in theoretical papers as far as the rest of the galaxy knew. Around her, technicians monitored systems that represented the pinnacle of human engineering. "Commander Morrison," she reported, "Quantum Disruptor Array is fully charged. We can disable or destroy any target in the system." Morrison nodded, studying the Vorthan fleet formation. The aliens were clearly confused and alarmed by the sudden appearance of human forces, but they hadn't yet grasped the full extent of their disadvantage. "Dr. Kim, what's the tactical assessment of Vorthan technology?" Kim consulted her displays, comparing Vorthan capabilities against human countermeasures. "Their plasma weapons are powerful but crude, operating on principles we mastered 50 years ago. Their shields are energy-based and vulnerable to quantum disruption. Their faster-than-light drives use folded space technology that we can interfere with using our dimensional anchors. In other words, Commander, they're fighting yesterday's war with yesterday's weapons. They have no defense against quantum manipulation or dimensional engineering." Morrison allowed himself a smile. Humanity had spent 2 centuries developing weapons and defenses specifically designed to counter every form of technology they might encounter. The Vorthans represented the first real test of that preparation. The choice back aboard the Devastator, Crix found himself facing a situation he had never encountered in 40 years of conquest. His fleet, which had seemed overwhelmingly powerful when it entered the system, now appeared vulnerable and outmatched. "Admiral," Commander Vex said quietly, "what are your orders?" Crix studied the tactical display, trying to find some advantage his forces might exploit. The human ships were positioned perfectly to prevent any escape route, and their technology clearly surpassed anything the Collective possessed. "Signal to High Command," he said, finally. "Request immediate reinforcements." "Sir, our communications are being jammed. The humans appear to be using some form of quantum interference that blocks our faster-than-light transmissions." Crix felt the cold touch of real fear for the first time in decades. The humans had not only deceived him about their capabilities, they had trapped his entire fleet in their system with no way to call for help. General Stone's image appeared on his screen again, uninvited. "Admiral, you're attempting to contact your superiors. I'm afraid that won't be possible. Our quantum communication jammers have isolated your fleet. The choice before you is simple: surrender and live, or fight and die. There will be no reinforcements coming to save you." "The Vorthan Collective does not surrender," Crix said, though his voice carried less conviction than before. "Admiral, I've studied your species for 30 years. The Collective conquers weaker civilizations because it's easy and profitable. But when faced with a superior force, Vorthans are pragmatists. You didn't become the dominant species in your region by choosing death over survival." Crix looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were soldiers who had followed him through dozens of campaigns, who trusted him to lead them to victory. Now he was being asked to choose between their lives and his pride. "What guarantee do I have that you won't simply destroy us once we surrender?" "The same guarantee we've offered from the beginning, Admiral. We don't want to fight you. We never did. We simply wanted to be left alone. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated according to standard military protocol. You'll be returned to Collective space with a message for your leaders." The moment of truth, the bridge of the Devastator fell silent as Crix weighed his options. Around him, The pride of the Vorthan Third Fleet waited for orders that would determine whether they lived to see another day or died in a futile battle against an enemy they had gravely underestimated. Crix thought about the High Command's orders, about the collective's reputation, about his own career and honor. Then he thought about the faces of his crew and the families they would never see again if he chose pride over pragmatism. All ships, he said quietly, power down weapons and shields, signal surrender to the human fleet. The admission of defeat was the hardest thing Crix had ever done, but as he watched his ships comply with the order, he felt a strange sense of relief. The humans had given him a choice that the collective rarely offered its enemies. The chance to live and learn from defeat. That on Earth, General Stone watched the Vorthan surrender with mixed emotions. Humanity had won its first interstellar war without firing a shot in anger, but he knew this was only the beginning. Word of human capabilities would spread throughout the galaxy, and not all alien civilizations would be as pragmatic as the Vorthans. The Terran Protocol had succeeded in its first test, but the real challenges lay ahead. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy, and there would be no going back to hiding in plain sight. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready for a species that had turned deception into strategy and survival into an art form. The price of arrogance, the galactic response 3 months after the Vorthan surrender in Sol System, the news of humanity's victory had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the crystal spires of the Ethereal Confederation, the gas giant cities of the Methane Collective, and the asteroid habitats of the Silicon Brotherhood, alien civilizations struggled to comprehend what had happened. Ambassador Zelith of the Confederation stood before the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Nexus Prime, her translucent form shimmering with agitation. The emergency session had been called to address what many species now called the human question. Fellow beings, Zelith began, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones of her species. We have all reviewed the intelligence reports from the Vorthan encounter. The implications are staggering. A species we believed to be primitive has revealed capabilities that surpass our most advanced civilizations. Counselor Thrak of the Methane Collective floated in his environmental suit, his gas-form body pulsing with concern. The humans deceived not just the Vorthans, but all of us. For decades, our surveys showed them as technologically inferior. How many other secrets might they be hiding? The debate continued for hours, with each species expressing varying degrees of fear, admiration, and uncertainty about humanity's place in galactic politics. Unknown to them, every word was being monitored by Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now serving as Earth's first director of xenological intelligence. The Vorthan High Command in the fortress world of Vorth Prime, High Admiral Nexus stood before the Collective's ruling council, his 4 arms shaking with rage as he delivered his report on the Third Fleet's defeat. The council chamber was a massive dome of black metal designed to intimidate anyone who entered. Today, it served as the stage for the greatest military embarrassment in Vorthan history. The humans, Nexus said, his voice grinding like broken stone, have made fools of us all. War Admiral Crix's report describes technology that should not exist. Quantum manipulation weapons, dimensional engineering, faster-than-light communication jamming. They disabled our most powerful warships without apparent effort. Supreme Counselor Valdak, ancient even by Vorthan standards, leaned forward on his throne. His scales had long since turned the deep purple that marked extreme age, and his eyes held the cold intelligence that had built the Collective's empire. You speak of impossibilities, High Admiral. Our science division assures us that such technologies violate known physical laws. Then our science division is wrong, Nexus replied bluntly. The humans returned Admiral Crix and his fleet exactly as promised, along with detailed sensor logs of their capabilities. We cannot dismiss what our own instruments recorded. Counselor Yex, younger and more aggressive than his colleagues, slammed his armored fist against his chair. This is intolerable. The Collective has dominated this region of space for 3 centuries. We cannot allow a single primitive world to challenge our authority. Primitive. Nexus laughed bitterly. Counselor Yex, these primitives possess technology that makes our most advanced warships look like crude chemical rockets. They have been systematically deceiving the entire galaxy about their true capabilities. Earth's Strategic Calculations General Marcus Stone stood in the expanded command center beneath Cheyenne Mountain, now serving as the headquarters for humanity's rapidly growing interstellar operations. The revelation of human capabilities had triggered the activation of dozens of previously secret installations across human space. General, reported Colonel Patricia Hayes, the intelligence summary from our galactic monitoring network shows significant military mobilization across 17 different species. The hegemony of scales is moving battle fleets to their border systems. The Crystal Empire has activated their war production facilities. Stone studied the holographic display showing alien fleet movements across known space. The pattern was clear. Fear was driving potential enemies to prepare for conflict. What about our diplomatic channels? Dr. Elena Rodriguez, recently appointed as Earth's first ambassador to galactic affairs, stepped forward. Sir, we've received formal communication requests from 43 different civilizations. Most are seeking trade agreements or mutual defense pacts. However, 7 species have issued what amount to ultimatums, demanding that we submit to their authority or face military action. And our response: we've accepted the diplomatic overtures and ignored the threats. But, General, some of these civilizations command fleets that dwarf the Vorthan force we defeated. The hegemony alone has over 5,000 capital ships. Stone nodded grimly. Humanity's deception had been successful beyond their wildest dreams, but success brought its own dangers. The galaxy now saw humans as either valuable allies or dangerous threats, with very little middle ground. The hegemony's Gambit fleet Marshal Krex of the hegemony of Scales stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching as the largest military force in galactic history assembled around him. 2,000 warships, the combined might of the hegemony's core worlds, now hung in formation around the massive command vessel. The hegemony had ruled the galactic core for over a millennium. Their empire built on the principle that superior technology and overwhelming force could solve any problem. The news of human capabilities had shaken that confidence to its foundations. Marshall, reported as aide, a young officer whose scales still showed the bright green of youth, the final squadrons have arrived. The fleet is at full strength. Krex nodded, his ancient eyes studying the tactical displays. At over 400 years old, he had commanded hegemony fleets through dozens of campaigns. Never before had he felt the need to deploy such massive force against a single world. Signal the fleet. We jump to the human system in 1 hour. It's time to test whether these humans are as dangerous as they claim. The decision had been made by the hegemony's ruling council after weeks of debate. The humans represented an unknown variable in the galactic balance of power. Either they would submit to hegemony authority, proving their strength was an illusion, or they would resist and be destroyed, eliminating the threat they represented. Humanity's true Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the primary operations center of Terra Station, humanity's most closely guarded secret. The massive space station, built into a hollowed-out asteroid in the Oort cloud, served as the command center for humanity's true military might. Around him, holographic displays showed the deployment of human forces across dozens of star systems. The public revelation of Earth's defenses had been only the beginning. Now, for the first time in over 2 centuries, humanity was preparing to show the galaxy the full extent of their capabilities. Admiral, reported Captain Lisa Chun, recently promoted to strategic operations, long-range sensors detect a massive fleet approaching Sol system. 2,000 ships, hegemony configuration. Estimated arrival in 18 hours. Morrison studied the intelligence reports on hegemony technology and tactics. Their ships were larger and more heavily armed than Vorthan vessels, but they relied on the same basic principles: brute force and overwhelming firepower. What's the status of Project Exodus? All civilian populations have been evacuated to the backup colonies. Earth is now defended solely by military installations and automated systems. Morrison nodded. The evacuation had been planned for decades, designed to protect human civilians while allowing their military to fight without restraint. The hegemony was about to discover that an apparently defenseless Earth was actually the galaxy's most sophisticated military trap, the technology gap. Dr. Sarah Kim worked frantically in the quantum research laboratories beneath Luna Base, making final adjustments to humanity's most advanced weapon systems. Around her, teams of scientists and engineers prepared technologies that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Dr. Kim called her assistant. The dimensional anchor arrays are fully charged. We can prevent faster-than-light escape from anywhere in the system. Kim nodded, checking the status displays for the various weapon systems under her command. Quantum disruptors that could unmake matter at the subatomic level. Dimensional shifters that could phase ships partially out of normal space. Temporal field generators that could slow or accelerate time in localized areas. The technological gap between humanity and the rest of the galaxy was even larger than most humans realized. While other species had focused on incremental improvements to existing technologies, humanity had spent 2 centuries developing entirely new scientific principles. The Hegemony Arrives Fleet Marshal Krex watched with satisfaction as his massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Sol System. The display of force was intended to be overwhelming. 2,000 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy arranged in perfect battle formation. Marshall reported his tactical officer. Initial scans confirm intelligence reports. The human homeworld appears lightly defended. We count approximately 300 vessels in the system, mostly concentrated around the 3rd planet. Krex studied the tactical display with growing confidence. The human fleet was outnumbered more than 6 to 1, and hegemony ships were individually superior to the vessels that had defeated the Vorthans. Open a communication channel to the planet. The main screen flickered, showing the now familiar figure of General Stone in his command center. But this time, the human leader's expression was harder, more determined. General Stone, Krex began, his translated voice carrying the authority of a millennium-old empire. I am Fleet Marshal Krex of the Hegemony of Scales. You will surrender immediately and submit to hegemony authority. Your species has upset the galactic balance of power. This cannot be tolerated. Stone's expression didn't change. Marshal Krex, you are entering Sol System with hostile intent. This is your only warning. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Krex felt his scales flush with anger. The human was speaking to him as if they were equals, as if a single world could challenge the might of the galactic core. General, you defeated a single Vorthan fleet through trickery and deception. I command 2,000 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Surrender now, and your species will be granted protectorate status. Resist, and we will demonstrate why the hegemony has ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. The Revelation Stone's image flickered and was replaced by a new display that made Krex's blood run cold. The tactical screen now showed not 300 human ships, but over 10,000. They appeared throughout the system, emerging from concealment in planets, moons, asteroids, and the dark spaces between worlds. But these were not the relatively small vessels that had defeated the Vorthans. These were massive dreadnoughts, each one larger than Krex's own flagship. They hung in space like sleeping giants, their sleek hulls radiating power that made his sensors struggle to get accurate readings. Impossible, whispered his tactical officer. Where did they all come from? Before Krex could respond, space around his fleet began to change. The stars themselves seemed to shift and bend as invisible forces took hold of his ships. One by one, the hegemony vessels found themselves frozen in space, their engines powerless, their weapons offline. General Stone's image returned to the screen, his expression now showing something that might have been pity. Marshal Krex, what you saw before was our defensive fleet, designed to protect Earth from conventional attacks. What you're seeing now is our strategic fleet, designed to project power across the galaxy. Your ships are currently held by dimensional anchors that lock you in normal space. Your weapons have been disabled by quantum field manipulators. Your communications have been severed by chronoton interference. Krex stared at the display, watching his mighty fleet rendered helpless by technologies he couldn't begin to understand. "How?" he whispered. "Marshal, the hegemony has spent 1,000 years perfecting yesterday's technology. Humanity has spent 200 years inventing tomorrow's. You came here expecting to fight a conventional war with conventional weapons. Instead, you're facing technologies that operate on principles your science hasn't discovered yet. The choice." Admiral Morrison watched from Terra Station as the hegemony fleet hung motionless in space, completely at the mercy of human forces. Around him, tactical displays showed that humanity could destroy every enemy ship within minutes if they chose to do so. "Admiral," reported Captain Chun, "all hegemony vessels are secured. No weapons active, no communications possible. Marshal Krex is requesting a private channel." Morrison nodded. "Put him through." The screen showed the hegemony commander, his scales now pale with shock and defeat. When he spoke, his voice carried none of its earlier arrogance. "Admiral Morrison, I have commanded fleets for 3 centuries. I have conquered worlds and broken empires, but I have never seen anything like this. Your technology is beyond anything we thought possible. Marshal, your species made the same mistake as the Vorthans. You assumed that what you could see represented the full extent of human capabilities. You were wrong. What do you want from us?" Morrison considered the question carefully. Humanity had now demonstrated their superiority over 2 of the galaxy's major powers, but showing strength was only the first step. The real challenge was building a sustainable peace. "We want what we've always wanted, Marshal, to be left alone to develop in peace. But if the galaxy insists on threatening us, we're prepared to defend ourselves." The new galactic order 6 months later, Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood before the Reformed Galactic Council on Nexus Prime, addressing an assembly that had been fundamentally changed by humanity's revelations. The chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of species, all eager to hear Earth's proposals for a new galactic order. "Fellow beings," she began, "humanity did not seek this role. We would have been content to remain hidden, developing our technology and exploring the cosmos in peace. But the aggressive actions of several major powers forced us to reveal ourselves." The response from the assembled delegates was a mixture of fear, respect, and curiosity. Humanity had proven that they possessed the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but their restraint in using it had earned them grudging admiration from many species. "Today, I propose a new framework for galactic civilization. A system based on mutual respect rather than domination, on cooperation rather than conquest. Humanity offers our protection to any species that desires peace, and our technology to those willing to use it responsibly." Ambassador Zelith of the Ethereal Confederation was the first to respond. "Ambassador Rodriguez, your species has demonstrated unprecedented military capability. What guarantee do we have that humanity will not become the same kind of oppressive empire that the hegemony once was?" Elena smiled, thinking of the debates that had raged in Earth's councils for months. "Ambassador Zelith, we offer the same guarantee we gave to the Vorthans and the hegemony. We will defend ourselves when threatened, but we have no interest in conquest or domination. Our goal is simple: a galaxy where every species can develop according to its own nature, free from the threat of extinction or enslavement." The long, peace 5 years after first contact with the Vorthan Collective, General Marcus Stone stood in his garden on Luna Base, watching Earth rise over the lunar horizon. The garden was his private retreat, a place where he could escape the burden of commanding humanity's defense forces. The galaxy had changed dramatically since humanity's revelation. The old empires built on conquest and domination had crumbled, replaced by a new confederation based on mutual cooperation. Trade flourished between species that had previously been enemies. Scientific knowledge was shared freely, accelerating technological development across the galaxy. Colonel Hayes approached, carrying a datapad with the latest intelligence reports. General, the weekly summary shows continued stability across all sectors. The Vorthan Collective has completed their transition to a parliamentary government. The hegemony has disbanded their conquest fleets and is focusing on infrastructure development. Even the Silicon Brotherhood has agreed to join the new Galactic Cooperation Treaty. Stone nodded, but his expression remained thoughtful. And potential threats? Long-range surveys have detected several advanced civilizations beyond our current contact zone. Early indications suggest they may be more aggressive than the species we've encountered so far. Stone smiled grimly. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only begun to explore its mysteries. There would always be new challenges, new threats to face. But now they face them as part of a galactic community rather than alone. The Eternal Vigil. Dr. Sarah Kim, now Director of Advanced Research, worked in her laboratory aboard Terra Station, developing the next generation of human technology. The galaxy might be at peace, but she knew that peace was only maintained through strength. Dr. Kim called her assistant. The Quantum Consciousness Transfer Project has reached Phase 3 trials. We should have the first viable prototypes within 6 months. Kim nodded, studying the implications of the technology they were developing. Consciousness transfer would make human individuals effectively immortal, able to transfer their minds between bodies or even exist as pure information. It was the next step in human evolution, and potentially their greatest advantage in the long struggle for survival. Around her, hundreds of other projects continued humanity's relentless advancement. Dimensional engineering that could create pocket universes, temporal manipulation that could allow limited time travel, matter conversion that could transform any element into any other. The galaxy thought it had seen the full extent of human capabilities. They were wrong. Humanity's greatest strength had always been their ability to adapt and evolve, to find new solutions to impossible problems. The peace they had built was strong, but Kim knew it would only last as long as humanity remained the galaxy's most advanced civilization. Epilogue. The Watchers far beyond the edge of known space, in a star system that would not be discovered for another 1,000 years, an ancient intelligence stirred in response to quantum resonances that spoke of advanced technology. The architects had been dormant for millions of years, waiting for the galaxy to evolve a species capable of challenging their dominance. Now, sensors older than most civilizations detected the characteristic signatures of dimensional manipulation and quantum consciousness transfer. Somewhere in the galaxy, a species had begun to develop technologies that the architects considered their exclusive domain. The massive construct that served as their command vessel began to power up systems that had slept since the last galactic extinction event. Across the dark spaces between galaxies, similar vessels received the awakening signal and began their long journey toward the source of the disturbance. Humanity had won their place in the galactic community through deception, superior technology, and careful restraint. They had built a peace that seemed secure and lasting. But in the vast cosmos, peace was always temporary, and there were threats lurking in the darkness that even human ingenuity might not be able to overcome. The Terran Protocol had succeeded beyond all expectations, transforming humanity from a hidden species into the galaxy's reluctant guardians. But the true test of human survival was yet to come, and it would require everything they had learned about adaptation, cooperation, and the price of freedom in an uncaring universe. The stars watched and waited, holding their secrets close, while humanity continued their eternal vigil against the darkness between worlds.